Welcome to Monk's Temple. Find a place where you can be comfortable. Let the world outside soften, just for now. There's no need to do anything, or be anywhere else. Simply allow your body to settle, and let your gaze, whether your eyes are open or closed, turn gently inward. We are about to begin a long, quiet journey together, not a journey to a distant land, but a journey into the very heart of the peace and resilience that already exists within you. This journey is guided by a map drawn over 2.5 millennia ago, a map of the human spirit known as Buddhism. We will walk this path not as adherents to a dogma, but as explorers of a profound and practical wisdom, using the Buddha's own discoveries as our compass. Tonight, we will not rush. We will move slowly, with many pauses, many stories, and many returns to the breath. We will explore timeless ideas, but we will come at them from different angles, weaving them together like threads in a vast, comforting tapestry. Our aim is not just to understand, but to feel. To transform knowing into being. So, let us begin at the very center of the whirlwind, at the place where we so often feel tossed about. Let us begin not by seeking calm, but by understanding the very nature of the storm. Part 1, The Unshakable Lens, Seeing Through the Eyes of Compassion. We often believe that our feelings are direct, unmediated reactions to the world. Someone is rude, and we feel anger. A plan fails, and we feel sadness. We assume the world happens to us, and our inner weather is simply a consequence. But what if there is a lens between the world and our heart? A lens that colors everything we see? Most of the time, that lens is scratched by our own hopes, fears, and judgments. We see through a filter of, for me, or, against me. Compassion, or karuna as it is known in the Buddhist teachings, is the practice of polishing that lens until it becomes crystal clear, until it allows us to see not just the surface action, but the deeper currents of suffering and joy that move in all beings, including ourselves. This is not about being nice. It is about being real. It is about recognizing a fundamental truth the Buddha taught, that the wish to be happy and free from suffering is universal. When you see through this lens, the rude person is no longer just an affront, they are a manifestation of their own pain, confusion, or fear. Your own sadness is not a personal failing, it is the human response to loss, understood with kindness. Compassion changes the equation from me versus the world to me within the world. It is the foundation of a positivity that is unshakable because it is not dependent on everything going your way. It is dependent only on your capacity to connect. Let me share a story, one often told in the quiet halls of Monk's Temple. It is the tale of the nightingale and the stone. In a royal garden, there was a nightingale of unparalleled song. Each evening, she would sing, and the entire court would listen in rapt silence, moved to tears by the beauty. In the same garden lay a large, smooth, gray stone by the path. One evening, after the nightingale finished, a courtier sighed, "Your song is so beautiful, it must make you endlessly happy." The nightingale replied, "I sing not from a place of constant happiness, but from a place of feeling. I feel the cool of the evening, the scent of the jasmine, the weariness of the gardener, the longing in the hearts of those who listen. I sing with them, not for them. My song is my compassion." The courtier, unsatisfied, turned to the stone. "And you, silent stone, you must be sad, for you cannot sing." The stone, in its deep, slow way of knowing, responded, "I feel the warmth of the sun by day and the cool of the dew by night. I feel the weight of the passing pageant and the tiny feet of the ants who make their home in my cracks. I hold the imprint of the child who sat upon me. My silence is not sadness. It is a different kind of listening, a deep compassion for the weight of things. The nightingale expresses the flow, I honor the ground. Are we not both part of the same garden? The courtier was humbled. He had seen only performance and stillness. He had not seen the quality of attention, the shared feeling, that connected the singer and the stone. He had missed the compassionate lens through which each experienced the world. This lens is something we can cultivate. It begins, as all true things do, with ourselves. I remember a time early in my own practice when I was consumed by self-criticism. Every mistake felt like a permanent stain. My inner voice was a relentless critic. One day, after a particularly harsh session of this inner dialogue, my teacher simply asked, "If your dearest friend came to you with this same story of error, what would you do? Would you list their flaws for an hour? Or would you offer them a cup of tea, a quiet seat, and your simple presence?" The question stopped me cold. I realized I was a tyrant to my own heart. True compassion had to include the being closest to me, myself. From that day, I began the practice of speaking to myself as I would to a beloved friend in pain. It felt awkward at first, but gradually, the internal climate began to soften. The storms of self-recrimination lost their fury. This inner softening is the first, most crucial step. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot offer genuine compassion to others if you are at war with yourself. Let us practice this softening now, together. Wherever you are, let your body be at ease. Gently close your eyes. Bring your attention to your breath, not to change it, but simply to feel it. The cool air entering, the warm air leaving. Now, in the space of your own heart, bring to mind someone you love without complication. See their face. Feel the natural warmth of your care for them. Silently, offer them these wishes: may you be safe from inner and outer harm. May you have mental and physical well-being. May your life unfold with ease. Let the words be felt, not just thought. Now, turn this gentle attention upon yourself. You, who carry so much. Offer the same wishes: may I be safe. May I be well. May I live with ease. If it feels difficult, that is perfectly fine. Just offer the intention, like placing a flower on an altar. Now, extend this wish to all beings in your city, your country, the world. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings live with ease. Slowly, let your awareness return to your breath, and then to the room. Notice the quality of your mind. Has it become a little quieter, a little more spacious? This is the beginning of compassion. It is a conscious orientation of the heart toward kindness. If this practice of tending to your inner garden resonates with you, if you wish to have a sanctuary like Monk's Temple to return to, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. By subscribing, you create a gentle reminder for yourself to pause and polish this lens of compassion. It also helps this community of peaceful exploration grow. So, if you feel so moved, please click subscribe and the bell icon. You are always welcome here. Now, having begun to polish the lens through which we see, we must ask, where do we stand to look? Our minds are so often not here. They are lost in memories, which are ghosts, or in worries, which are phantoms. To see clearly, we must be fully present. This is our next step. Shall we continue? Having touched the gentle warmth of compassion, we now turn to the ground upon which we stand to feel it. For if our awareness is a flickering candle, blown in every direction by the winds of memory and anticipation, even the brightest compassion can seem like a distant idea, not a lived reality. We must find a way to become still. Not the stillness of a frozen pond, but the stillness of a deep lake. Clear, reflective, and unshaken by the activity on its surface. In the teachings that flow from the Buddha, this is the practice of mindfulness, or sati, the art of anchoring our awareness, without judgment, in the present moment. It is the silent hearth at the center of our being, where we can always return to warm our hands and gather our senses. Imagine your mind as a vast, ancient library. The books are your thoughts, your memories, your plans. For most of our lives, we are not the librarian. We are a frantic researcher, rushing from aisle to aisle, pulling books off the shelves, reading a paragraph here, a chapter there, dropping them on the floor, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information and noise. Mindfulness is the act of becoming the librarian. It is walking to the central desk, sitting down, and simply observing the library. You see the researcher rushing about. You hear the thump of books. You feel the cool, still air of the building. But you are seated. You are present. You are not the chaos, you are the aware space that holds it. From this seat, you can begin to understand the library's layout. You can see that the frantic researcher is not finding what he seeks because he is looking everywhere but here, at the calm center. This is not about emptying the mind. It is about changing our relationship to its contents. A personal story comes to mind. For years, I struggled with insomnia. My nights were a battleground. The moment my head hit the pillow, the library would erupt. Every worry, every unresolved conversation, every task for tomorrow would shout for attention. I would try to fight them, to push them away, which only gave them more energy. I was the frantic researcher, exhausted but unable to stop. Then, a teacher offered a different instruction. Do not try to sleep, he said. And do not try to silence your thoughts. Simply become the librarian of the night. Your only task is to feel the weight of your body on the mattress. To feel the texture of the sheets. To listen to the most distant sound you can hear. When a thought arises, acknowledge it. Say, thinking softly in your mind, and return your attention to the feeling of the pillow under your cheek. It felt foolish, passive. But that night, I tried. I gave up the battle. I simply felt. I noticed the thought, I have to finish that report, and instead of following it into a spiral of anxiety, I silently said, thinking, and felt the coolness of the cotton on my skin. I did this again, and again, and again. I was not trying to achieve anything, not even sleep. I was just being present with what was. And somewhere in that long, gentle night of attentive feeling, not fighting, I slipped into the deepest, most restorative sleep I had known in years. I had discovered the silent hearth within the storm of my own mind. Mindfulness, in the Buddhist tradition, is often linked with clear comprehension. It is not a vague spacing out. It is a vivid, gentle knowing. It is knowing you are breathing while you are breathing. It is knowing you are walking while you are walking. It is knowing anger is present while feeling anger, without immediately becoming the anger. This creates a sacred pause. In that pause, between the external event and our habitual reaction, our freedom is born. Let me share an original parable to illustrate this power. In a bustling port city, there was a legendary ferry captain named Ilara. She navigated the treacherous, fog-shrouded harbor channels that no other captain would dare at night. Young captains begged for her secret. She would only smile and say, "I know my boat." Finally, she agreed to take an apprentice, Kale, on a night run. As they entered the thickest fog, Kale grew nervous. He saw shadowy shapes of other vessels, heard blaring horns, felt the current pull them. "Captain," he cried, "a ship to starboard. Shall I turn?" Ilara stood calmly at the wheel, her eyes not piercing the fog, but resting on her own instruments, feeling the vibrations of her own ship. "Feel our engine," she said, her voice steady. "Listen to its hum. That is our truth. The fog is the world. The horns are the opinions and demands of others. The shadows are your fears. If you steer by them, you will crash. Steady yourself by what is real and present here, the hum of your own being, the feel of the wheel in your hands. From that steadiness, you can navigate anything." Kale closed his eyes for a moment, shutting out the terrifying shadows. He felt the solid deck under his feet. He heard the consistent rhythm of the engine. He felt the cool, moist air on his face. When he opened his eyes, the fog was still there, but his panic was not. He was present. From that anchored place, he could now see the actual running lights of other ships with clarity, not as monstrous shadows but as navigational facts. He understood. Mindfulness is not about denying the fog of life's difficulties. It is about cultivating an inner steadiness so profound that you can move through the fog with clarity and peace. Here are 2 anchors you can cast right now, in this moment. The anchor of sound. For the next minute, do nothing but listen. Don't label the sounds, car, bird, fan. Don't judge them, annoying, pleasant. Just let the world of sound wash over you. Hear the loud sounds, the faint sounds, the silence between sounds. Be like a vast, open ear. When you find yourself thinking about a sound, gently return to the pure experience of hearing. This practice roots you firmly in the sensory reality of the now. The anchor of the body scan. Bring your attention to the crown of your head. Simply notice any sensation there, tingling, warmth, pressure, or the absence of sensation. Without moving, slowly, like a beam of soft light, move your attention down through your body, your forehead, your eyes, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, down to the very tips of your toes. Spend just a few seconds on each area. Your job is not to relax it, but to know it. To feel the simple, present moment truth of your physical being. This reunites a scattered mind with its home, the body. Through these practices, we cultivate the silent hearth. We learn that calm is not a state we find when the world is quiet, it is the quality of attention we bring to a world that is never quiet. It is the librarian's seat. It is the steady hum of Ilara's engine. From this place of gathered awareness, we can look out at the world, and at our own hearts, with the clarity of the polished lens of compassion. But to complete our understanding, we must look at what we see when we gaze so clearly. We must understand the nature of the landscape itself. That understanding is our next discovery. Now we arrive at the heart of what we see when we look through the clear lens of compassion, from the steady ground of mindfulness. We see movement. We see change. We see a fundamental truth that the Buddha placed at the very center of his teaching, anicca, or impermanence. This is not a grim fact to be dreaded, but a liberating truth to be understood. It is the wisdom of the river. A river is never the same from one moment to the next. You cannot step into the same river twice. To cling to a single droplet of water, to a particular ripple, is to miss the majestic, flowing whole. Our suffering arises when we stand on the bank, pointing at a passing log and declaring, "That is my log. It must stay here forever," and then despairing as the current carries it away. Peace is found when we learn to sit by the riverbank and appreciate the entire, ever-changing spectacle, the calm pools, the rushing rapids, the drifting leaves, knowing that each is a temporary, beautiful expression of the river's nature. We confuse the temporary for the permanent. We believe a joyful moment should last, a painful moment should never have come, our youth should stay, our circumstances should solidify. We build our houses of identity on this sandy bank, and then are shocked when the river of time reshapes the shore. The Buddha's insight was that by deeply understanding and accepting impermanence, we release the tension of clinging and aversion. We stop trying to freeze the river. We learn to swim. Let me offer a story from the annals of Monk's Temple, a tale called The Master of the Sand Mandala. In a great temple, there lived a monk renowned for his artistry in creating sand mandalas, intricate, breathtaking geometric patterns made from millions of grains of colored sand. He would work for weeks in silent concentration, his mindfulness absolute, his compassion expressed in the beauty he offered to the world. Pilgrims would travel for miles to see his latest creation, a dazzling, fixed universe of form and color. They would gasp at its perfection and permanence. But the monk held a secret understanding. Once the mandala was complete, after a brief period of display, he would perform a ceremony. With a gentle, compassionate breath, he would sweep a feather across the intricate surface, scattering the meticulously placed sands into a swirling, chaotic mix. He would then gather the mixed sands in a jar, carry them to a flowing river, and release them into the current. The pilgrims were often horrified. Why destroy such beauty? Why waste such effort? They would cry. The master would smile. The beauty was not in a fixed pattern, he would explain. The beauty was in the conscious, loving act of creation. The lesson is in the release. If I clung to the form, I would fear the wind, dread the passing of time, and my art would become a prison of my own making. By letting it go according to its nature, for what is more impermanent than a design of loose sand, I honor its truth. I participate in the great cycle. Form, from formlessness, returning to formlessness, ready to take new form. The river receives these sands, and they will become part of a future bank, a pearl in an oyster, a glint of light on the water. The end of the pattern is not its death, it is its continuation in a different way. The pilgrims who understood left not with sadness, but with a profound, quiet awe. They had witnessed not just art, but wisdom in action. The master's calm was unshakable because he was in harmony with the fundamental law of change. His positivity was undimmed because he found joy in the process of creation and release, not in the desperate maintenance of a fragile outcome. I encountered this truth not with sand, but with sound. In my youth, I trained in a musical tradition where great emphasis was placed on recording the perfect take. We would labor for hours in a studio, playing a piece over and over, seeking a flawless, permanent encapsulation of the music. The process became tense, joyless, a fight against missed notes and human frailty. Then, I attended a live performance by a master of a different tradition. His playing was full of what we in the studio would call mistakes, a slightly buzzed note, a rushed phrase. But the music was alive, electric, heartbreakingly beautiful. Afterward, I asked him about the imperfections. He laughed. "The music is not in the notes on the page," he said. "It is in the movement from silence to sound and back to silence. Each note arises and passes. The buzz, the rush, they are part of this moment's unique expression. If you are trying to capture a perfect, permanent fossil of the music, you kill it. You must let it live, and let it go." He was teaching Anika. He was the master of the sand mandala, and each performance was a temporary, beautiful pattern swept away by time, leaving only the memory of its aliveness in the heart. How do we practice with this wisdom? We do not just think about it, we train ourselves to perceive it. Practice the cloud meditation. Sit where you can see the sky, or imagine it. Watch the clouds. See a particular cloud, its unique shape, its brightness. Now, watch it change. It softens at the edges. It merges with another. It stretches and becomes something entirely different. It dissolves into the blue. Do not regret the loss of the first shape. Observe the beauty of the transformation. Your thoughts, feelings, and situations are these clouds. The vast, aware sky of your mindfulness is the blue that holds them all, unaffected by their coming and going. Practice the "and this also" mantra. In moments of strong emotion, positive or negative, add this simple phrase to your mindful observation. Feel a surge of joy, joy is here, and this also will change. Feel a pang of anxiety, anxiety is here, and this also will change. This is not to negate the feeling, but to place it within the truthful, liberating context of the river. It takes the solid, oppressive weight out of the experience and gives it movement. It allows you to experience the joy more fully, because you are not clinging, and the anxiety less fearfully, because you are not resisting. Embracing impermanence is the ultimate act of trust. It is trusting that just as the river carried away the log you loved, it will also bring new and beautiful driftwood to your shore. It is trusting that after winter's bareness, the sap will rise again. It allows you to engage fully with life, not as a desperate collector trying to hold on to everything, but as a grateful witness and participant in a magnificent, unfolding dance. You are free to love deeply, because you do not demand that the object of your love never change. You are free to work passionately, because you are not devastated by the changing form of the results. You are free to live courageously, because you know no season, pleasant or unpleasant, is final. Now we have our three core elements: the lens of compassion that changes how we see, the silent hearth of mindfulness that provides where we see from, and the wisdom of the river that reveals the true, flowing nature of what we see. These are not steps in a line, but interwoven strands of a single rope. In the next part, we will begin to braid them together, to see how they support and amplify each other in the art of daily living. We will move from understanding to integration. We have journeyed to three distinct clearings in the forest of wisdom. We have polished the lens, stoked the hearth, and learned the language of the river. Now, we step back to see the forest itself. These teachings do not exist in isolation. They are a braid, each strand giving strength and purpose to the others. To live with calm and positivity is to weave this braid continuously in the loom of your daily experience. Let us explore how these three principles dance together, each making the others possible. Imagine a master weaver at her loom. The warped threads, the vertical ones held taut on the frame, are your practice of mindfulness. They provide the essential structure, the stable foundation of present moment awareness. Without this taut, steady warp, the cloth cannot hold together. The weft threads, shot horizontally through the warp, are your compassion. They are the color, the pattern, the warmth, and the connection that gives the cloth its beauty and purpose. You can have a warp without a weft, a structure of bare awareness, but it would be cold and sterile, like an empty loom. And the pattern itself, the design that emerges, is governed by the understanding of impermanence. It is the knowledge that no thread is forever, that colors will blend and fade, that the cloth itself will one day wear thin. This knowledge doesn't ruin the weaving, it liberates the weaver. It allows her to weave with boldness and love, without the paralyzing fear of making a permanent mistake, appreciating each temporary stage of the design. When one strand is weak, the entire braid frays. Without mindfulness, compassion can become burnout. A frantic, scattered trying to fix everything, rooted in anxiety rather than clear-seeing love. Without compassion, mindfulness can become a detached, cold observation, a spiritual bypass that judges emotions as distractions, rather than meeting them with kindness. Without the wisdom of impermanence, both mindfulness and compassion can become strained by clinging. We cling to a particular state of calm, or we cling to a specific outcome of our kindness, and suffer when life, as it must, changes course. Let me share a story that illustrates this braid in action. This is the tale of the lighthouse keeper and the broken lens. Aaron was the keeper of a vital lighthouse on a stormy coast. His mindfulness was his rigorous routine, trimming the wick, polishing the brass, winding the clockwork mechanism without fail. His compassion was the light itself, a beacon of guidance and safety he sent out into the treacherous dark for all sailors. One terrible night, a hurricane struck. A flying piece of debris shattered the great Fresnel lens. The light was extinguished. Aaron's first reaction was pure panic, a lapse in mindfulness, swept away by the storm of emotion. Despair washed over him, all his careful work, ruined, ships would be lost, compassion twisted into anguished guilt. He saw this as a permanent catastrophe, forgetting impermanence. He sank to the floor in the howling dark. But then, his training whispered. He felt the cold stone beneath his hands, mindfulness returning to a simple sensation. He took one breath, then another, anchoring himself in the storm's eye of his own breath. From that small point of stillness, compassion rearose, not as guilt, but as clear intention. I must do what I can, now. And with that came the wisdom of change. This broken lens is the current reality. It is not the final reality. I cannot fix it tonight, but I can offer a different light. He gathered every lantern, candle, and lamp from the keeper's quarters. He placed them in every window of the stone tower. He built a large fire in the hearth and opened its shutters. The lighthouse did not send out its single, powerful beam. Instead, it became a constellation of scattered, flickering points of light. To a sailor, it would not have been the perfect, expected guide. But in that total blackness, that cluster of stubborn, human-made flames against the chaos said something perhaps more powerful. I am here. I have not abandoned my post. I am with you in this storm, doing what I can. At dawn, exhausted sailors who had ridden out the storm inshore said it was that ragged, imperfect glow, the proof of a resilient and adaptable heart, that gave them the final courage to hold on. Aaron's braid held. Mindfulness, breath, sensation, grounded him. Compassion, the intention to aid, directed him. Impermanence, the acceptance of the broken lens and the faith in a new dawn, gave him the flexibility to find a new solution. His calm was not the absence of the storm, but the regained steadiness within it. His positivity was not a happy thought, but the active, compassionate radiance of multiple small lights. This is how we must braid our own strands. When struck by personal grief, mindfulness lets us feel the raw ache without being destroyed by it. Compassion turns that attention toward our own suffering with kindness, allowing ourselves to weep. Impermanence whispers that this intense, sharp pain is a wave that will crest and gradually subside, making space for memory and eventually, new growth. The three work together to allow healing. In moments of anger, mindfulness creates the crucial pause between the trigger and the shout. Compassion expands to try to see the suffering or confusion in the other person, and in ourselves. Impermanence reminds us that this heated moment is a passing cloud in the vast sky of a relationship, allowing us to choose a response that doesn't cause lasting damage. We are not meant to be perfect weavers from the start. The practice is in noticing when the braid frays, and patiently, kindly, beginning to reweave. The very act of noticing is mindfulness. The decision to begin again with gentleness is compassion. The understanding that you will have to do this 10,000 times is impermanence. No failure is final. Now, having understood the theory of the braid, let us spend time learning the feel of the threads in our hands. We will delve into specific, practical applications, and listen to more stories that show this braided wisdom living and breathing in the world. We will move from the lighthouse into the marketplace, the home, and the quiet corners of the mind. Our exploration now turns from the clearings and the forest view to the soil beneath our feet and the clay in our hands. This is where wisdom meets the mundane, where the braid of compassion, mindfulness, and impermanence is not just contemplated, but used to shape the very substance of our days. Life is not a static sculpture to be admired, it is wet clay on a spinning wheel. Our hands must be both firm and gentle, our attention fully on the centering clay, and our hearts accepting of the fact that the form will change, from lump to vase, to perhaps a shattered piece, back to reclaimable clay. The Buddhist path is profoundly practical. It is for the marketplace, the commute, the kitchen, the difficult conversation. Let us become conscious potters. Consider the common experience of being stuck in traffic. The old, unconscious pattern. Irritation flares, loss of mindfulness. The mind blames others and curses the delay, compassion absent for self and others. The body tenses as if this delay is a permanent prison, ignorance of impermanence. The result is stress, wasted energy, and a poisoned mood. Now, apply the braid. Take a conscious breath. Feel the seat beneath you, the wheel in your hands. Mindfulness returns you to the present, to the actual clay. Recognize the shared human condition. Every person in these cars has a place they'd rather be, just like me. We are all in this together. Compassion broadens the lens. Then, remember, this traffic jam is a condition. It formed, and it will dissolve. My agitation will not make it go faster, and this feeling of frustration is also temporary. Impermanence relieves the sense of stuckness. From this place, you might choose to listen to beautiful music, use the time for a mindful breathing exercise, or simply observe the sky. The circumstance hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has transformed from one of resistance to one of composed engagement. You are no longer a victim of the traffic, you are a potter, skillfully working with the clay of a delayed moment. Let me share a story of applied wisdom, a modern parable. This is the tale of the two baristas. At a busy city coffee shop, there were two baristas working the morning rush. Leo saw the endless line as a personal siege. His mind was on the clock, dreading the next complex order. His movements were jerky, his smile forced. He spilled milk, cursed under his breath, and saw customers as obstacles to his peace. He clung to the hope of his break as a permanent escape. By mid-morning, he was a knot of stress, and his energy soured the atmosphere around him. Maya, beside him, approached the same line differently. She grounded herself before the first order. Feeling her feet on the floor, hearing the grind of the beans as a present moment sound, mindfulness. She saw each customer as a person starting their day, some weary, some eager, all human. She made eye contact and meant her good morning compassion. She understood the nature of a rush. This intensity is a wave. It will peak and then subside. My task is just this one drink, then the next, impermanence. She moved with a fluid, efficient grace. When she spilled milk, she smiled, cleaned it up, and continued. She found small joys, the perfect pour of an espresso, a regular's familiar order. Her energy was not drained by the rush, it was channeled by it. She was the centered potter, each coffee a small, well-made vessel offered with care. By noon, Leo was exhausted and resentful. Maya was tired, but inwardly calm and satisfied. They experienced the same external events. The difference was not in the clay, but in the hands that shaped it. Maya's practice transformed a stressful job into a field for cultivating presence, connection, and equanimity. This application extends to our inner dialogue. The clay of our self-talk is often shapeless and harsh. We can learn to shape it with the same three tools. When a critical thought arises, I'm so incompetent, mindfulness notices it. Ah, there is a critical thought. Compassion responds. This is a moment of suffering. May I be kind to myself. Impermanence wisdom adds, this thought is a passing mental event, not a truth. It will fade. This proactive, gentle shaping prevents the thought from hardening into a permanent, believed story. A personal anecdote, I once faced a period of professional rejection. Each no felt like a stamp of final failure. My mind was a storm of future tripping and self-recrimination. The braid felt broken. Finally, I instituted a practice hour. For 1 hour each morning, I would do my work not for the outcome, but as a practice of the three principles. I would write with full attention on the words, mindfulness. I would infuse the work with the intention that it might benefit a reader, however small, compassion. And I would release the day's results at the end of the hour, saying to myself, this was today's shape. Tomorrow the clay will be different, impermanence. This hour became an island of sanity. The rejections still stung, but they no longer defined my worth or my day. They became part of the weather, not the climate. Eventually, this grounded, compassionate energy did change my professional outcomes, but the greater gift was the unshakable peace cultivated in the process. The potter's wheel is always spinning. Our task is to keep our hands on the clay of this moment, with a compassionate heart, and a wise acceptance of the wheel's perpetual motion. We shape our life not through grand, permanent decisions, but through countless small, conscious engagements with the now. Now, let us listen to more stories that illuminate this braided wisdom in various shades of human experience. These tales are like different glazes fired onto the same sturdy pottery, showing the beautiful variety of a life lived with awareness. Stories are the firelight by which wisdom is passed. They bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the heart, leaving an imprint that mere instruction cannot. Let us sit by this metaphorical fire and listen to several original tales. Each is a unique vessel, shaped on the potter's wheel of our three principles, designed to hold a particular flavor of understanding. Listen not just for the plot, but for the interplay of the lens, the hearth, and the river. Story 1: The Archivist of Whispers. In a city of constant noise, there was an old man who lived in a tower lined with shelves. He was known as the Archivist of Whispers. His life's work was to listen for and record the most fragile of sounds, the sigh of a falling leaf, the soft click of a closing book, the faint hum of a sleeping bee. The city's practical folk dismissed him. "What use are whispers?" they said. "Record the speeches, the proclamations, the thunder." The archivist simply smiled and continued his work. One day, a great crisis befell the city. A palpable fog of anxiety settled over everyone. Leaders gave speeches that only amplified the fear. The thunder of panic was deafening. No one could think. In desperation, the city council summoned the archivist. "Tell us what to do," they demanded. The old man did not offer a plan. Instead, he invited them to sit in silence in his tower. At first, they heard nothing but their own frantic thoughts. But he guided them: listen past the thoughts. Listen for the whisper. Gradually, in the profound silence, they began to hear the gentle creak of the aged wood, the soft rustle of a page in a draft, the distant, rhythmic breath of the city sleeping. One by one, their shoulders dropped. Their minds, which had been ricocheting between past regrets and future fears, lack of mindfulness, settled into the present soundscape. Their hearts, which had been hardened by collective panic, lack of compassion, softened at the shared, vulnerable humanity of simply listening together. And their sense of a permanent, frozen catastrophe, ignorance of impermanence, began to thaw in the gentle flow of these simple, ongoing sounds. They left the tower not with a solution, but with a transformed state of being, calm, connected, and clear. From that place, the right actions emerged naturally, creatively, and effectively. The archivist had taught them that the answer was not in amplifying the noise, but in hearing the whisper of the present moment, a lesson in grounding mindfulness that opens the door to compassionate clarity and trust in change. Story 2: The Gardener of Broken Things. On the edge of a pristine village known for its perfect gardens, lived Alara, the gardener of broken things. While her neighbors cultivated flawless roses and manicured hedges, Alara's plot was a wild tangle. She collected broken pots, cracked statues, and withered plants others threw away. She would nestle shards of pottery into the soil to form mosaics for pathways. She planted ivy in the cracks of broken sculptures, letting green life embrace the stone. She revived wilted herbs in shaded, gentle corners. The villagers pitied or mocked her. "Why waste time on what is broken and past?" they asked. Ilara would simply touch a moss-covered statue and say, "Nothing is only broken. Everything is in a state of becoming something else." One year, a terrible hailstorm devastated the village. The perfect gardens were shredded. Pristine statues were chipped. The villagers were heartbroken, mourning the loss of their permanent beauty. They wandered, despondent, until they came to Ilara's garden. The hail had fallen there too, but the effect was different. The mosaic paths glittered with rainwater in the ceramic fragments. The ivy on the statues was lush and unharmed. The hardy, rescued plants stood strong. Her garden was not undamaged, it was alive, vibrant, and interesting precisely because it had always incorporated change and flaw into its design. Ilara greeted them with compassion, seeing their grief. She did not say, "I told you so." Instead, she said, "Let's gather your broken pieces. We can make new things together." She taught them mindfulness, to see the actual shape of the broken piece, not the memory of the whole. She embodied compassion, caring for the damaged without judgment. She lived impermanence, knowing that the hailstorm was an event, not an ending, and that beauty could take a new, unexpected form. The villagers learned resilience not from avoiding breakage, but from learning the art of repair and transformation. Story 3: The Bridge of Singing Stones. Two villages were separated by a deep, silent canyon. The only bridge was an ancient, fragile thing of rope and wood that sang a mournful creak in the wind. Fear of the bridge had grown into fear of each other. Trade and friendship had ceased. A young woman from the north, Anya, was chosen to cross and reopen talks. As she stepped onto the bridge, her mind was full of fears of the other village's hostility, future tripping, lack of mindfulness. Her heart was closed in defense, lack of compassion. She saw the situation as a permanent state of conflict, ignorance of impermanence. Halfway across, a strong wind arose. The bridge groaned and swayed violently. Terrified, Anya dropped to her hands and knees. Her cheek pressed against the old wooden plank. And then she heard it. The wind wasn't just making the bridge groan, it was making it sing. Each plank, each rope, had a different tone, a deep hum, a high whistle, a rhythmic knock. Together, they created a complex, wild symphony. In that moment of sheer, present moment terror, she was forced into absolute mindfulness. The feel of the wood, the sound of the song, the taste of the wind. Her compassion burst forth, not for the distant villagers, but for the brave, singing bridge itself, holding her aloft. And she understood impermanence. This wind would pass, this song would change, this moment of terror was just a note in a larger piece. When the wind calmed, she stood up, transformed. She crossed not as a wary diplomat, but as a witness to a shared, beautiful danger. Her first words to the elders of the South were not about trade, but about the bridge's song. She described the symphony of the storm. To her surprise, an old elder's eyes filled with tears. "My grandfather built that bridge," he said. He said its song was the voice of connection. The shared experience of the bridge's impermanent, terrifying beauty broke the ice of permanent suspicion. Talks began not from strategy, but from a rediscovered, compassionate connection to the fragile, singing link between them. These stories show the braid in action. The archivist teaches that deep listening, mindfulness, is the foundation for calm and creative response. The gardener shows that compassion directed at the broken and the imperfect fosters resilience and unexpected beauty. The bridge reveals how a direct encounter with impermanence, the storm, can shatter fixed views and force a compassionate reconnection. Each story is an invitation to see your own life through its lens. Are you listening only for the thunder, or can you hear the whisper? Are you discarding what seems broken, or can you see its potential for a new form of beauty? Are you frozen in fear of a chasm, or can you hear the song within the shaking bridge? The path of calm and positivity is paved with such moments of reperception. Let us continue to deepen our understanding with more of these guiding tales. We have wandered through stories of listening, mending, and connecting. Now, let us contemplate a symbol of endurance that holds our three principles in its very grain. Picture an ancient oak tree on a windswept hill. Its roots delve deep into the dark earth, its trunk is thick and gnarled, and its branches reach wide. This oak does not resist the storm. It does not become rigid, trying to stand perfectly still against the gale. If it did, it would snap. Instead, it sways. Its branches bend, its leaves release, its whole being moves with the force of the wind. Its stability is not an immobility, but in flexible, rooted resilience. The oak is a living embodiment of our braided wisdom. Its deep roots are mindfulness, the unwavering connection to the present ground of being. Its wide, sheltering canopy is compassion, offering shade and habitat to all. Its ability to bend and sway without breaking is the understanding of impermanence, the acceptance that storms are a temporary condition to be moved through, not a permanent enemy to be defeated. We often mistake calm for rigidity. We think being peaceful means having an unmovable face, a stilled heart, a life free from disturbance. But that is not calm, it is brittleness. True calm is the capacity of the weathered oak to feel the full force of the wind, to bend under its pressure, and yet to remain fundamentally rooted and whole. Our emotions are the wind. Our compassionate awareness is the flexible branch. Our mindful grounding is the deep root. The passing nature of all things is the knowledge that the storm, however fierce, will eventually blow itself out. Let me share a story of such a tree. This is the tale of the gatekeeper of the four winds. In a mountain pass stood a solitary gatehouse, tended by a solitary keeper named Kale. This pass was known as the throat of the world, where winds from four directions converged in a near-constant, chaotic torrent. Many keepers had come before Kale. Some tried to wall up the windows, to shut out the wind. They went mad from the muffled, persistent roar. Others stood defiantly in the doorway, shouting back at the gale until they were exhausted. Kale, however, observed. He first practiced mindfulness. He learned the distinct voice of each wind, the north's bitter howl, the west's wet sigh, the east's sharp whistle, the south's warm murmur. He felt them on his skin, not as an assault, but as a symphony of sensation. This was his root. Then, he cultivated compassion. He understood that the winds were not malicious. They were simply being winds, doing what winds must do. He extended this compassion to travelers who arrived battered and fearful. He would offer them tea and say, the wind is not your enemy. It is just very enthusiastic. He would listen to their stories, creating a pocket of warm, human connection within the chaos. This was his canopy. Finally, he embodied impermanence. He knew that no gust, no matter how violent, lasted forever. A lull always came. He would point to the shifting clouds and say, "See. It is already changing." He did not wait for the wind to stop to find peace. He found peace in his adaptable relationship to it. This was his flexibility. One night, a storm of legendary fury arose. A group of terrified travelers huddled in his gatehouse, convinced the very stones would be torn apart. Kale moved calmly. He opened the shutters on all four sides. The room filled with the deafening, multi-voiced storm. "Do not fight it," he said, his voice somehow clear in the maelstrom. "Listen. Feel it. The north wind carries the memory of glaciers. The south brings stories from distant deserts. We are at the crossroads of the world's breath. This is not destruction. This is aliveness." He then began to hum, a low, steady note that wove through the cacophony. One by one, the travelers stopped clinging to their fear. They listened. They felt. They noticed that the fierce pressure was, in fact, a kind of wild, ancient music. They survived the night not just physically, but spiritually enlarged, having learned that safety is not the absence of storm, but the quality of presence within it. Kale was the weathered oak. His mindfulness was unshakable because it was based on precise, present-moment observation, not on a fragile wish for quiet. His compassion was boundless because it included the winds themselves and the scared humans in his care. His understanding of impermanence allowed him to be perfectly at ease in flux. His calm was dynamic, not static. A personal reflection, I recall a period of my life I called the year of the constant gale. It felt as if every month brought a new significant loss or challenge, professional, personal, health-related. My old strategy had been to batten down the hatches, to become emotionally rigid, to get through it by shutting down. That year, that strategy failed utterly. I was cracking under the pressure. Remembering the principle of the oak, I changed my approach. Instead of resisting the feelings of grief, fear, and uncertainty, I allowed myself to feel them fully, to observe their textures with mindful curiosity, the root. I practiced fierce self-compassion, placing a hand on my heart during the hardest moments, the canopy. And I constantly reminded myself, this is a season of high winds. It is not the permanent climate of my life, the flexibility. I swayed. I wept. I adapted. And I did not break. In fact, by not resisting, I found that the winds themselves carried unexpected seeds, of new strength, deeper empathy, and a more authentic sense of what truly mattered. The stability I found was far greater than any rigid defense could have provided. This is the practice for life's inevitable storms. Do not seek to become a wall. Seek to become the oak. Root yourself in the breath, in the sensory truth of the moment. Extend the shelter of kindness to your own trembling heart and to others. And remember, with deep trust, the law of change. The mightiest storm is composed of passing gusts. Your calm is your ability to bend, to sway, to feel it all, and to know your core remains connected to something unwavering and deep. Now, let us explore how this flexible, rooted stability applies to one of the most common sources of our suffering, our relationship with the past and the future. We will learn how the braided wisdom frees us from the tyranny of time. Our journey now turns inward, to the shadowed corridors of memory. Here, in the mind's attic, we store more than souvenirs. We store ghosts, versions of ourselves we believe we failed, paths we did not take, words we wish we could unsay. These memories, when left unexamined, become like forgotten lanterns, casting long, distorting shadows on our present moment. They fuel regret, a sticky emotion that binds us to a past we can no longer change. The Buddhist teaching on right mindfulness includes a profound understanding of memory. We are to remember wisely, not to cling painfully. How do we take the forgotten lantern of a painful memory, clean its glass with compassion, fuel it with mindful awareness, and understand its light as part of life's impermanent flow? This is the work of making peace with yesterday. Regret is often a form of unproductive suffering. It says, the past should have been different, and because it is not, I am forever marred. This is a contraction around a moment that has ceased to exist, a refusal to accept the river's irreversible flow. To work with regret, we must apply our braided wisdom not to change the past event, but to change our relationship to the memory of it. Imagine memory not as a perfect recording, but as a story you tell yourself. Each time you recall an event, you are not replaying a tape, you are re-narrating it, subtly influenced by your current mood and beliefs. A regretful memory is a story told from a place of self-judgment and stasis. Our practice is to learn to re-narrate it from a place of compassionate, mindful, and impermanent awareness. Let me share the story of the keeper of the Echo Caves. There was a valley famous for its echo caves. If you shouted an angry word into their mouths, the caves would send back a chorus of distorted, lingering anger. If you sang a joyful note, they would return a shimmering chord. People visited to hear their own emotions amplified. Deep in the most secluded cave lived the keeper, an old woman who tended the cave walls. A young man, burdened by a decade-old regret over a failed opportunity that hurt his family, came to the caves. He shouted his story into the dark. I was a fool. I was selfish. I ruined everything. The cave threw back at him, fool, selfish, ruined, everything. The amplified condemnation shattered him. He slumped to the ground. The keeper emerged from the shadows. She did not console him with empty praise. Instead, she said, you have fed the cave a story of a frozen boy in a single moment. The cave only echoes what it is fed. But that boy in your story, he does not live here anymore, does he? She invited him to sit with her. Mindfulness, she said, is feeling the cool rock you sit on now, in this present cave. Not the phantom rock of 10 years past. He felt the stone. Compassion, she whispered, is seeing that young man not as a fool, but as a person who, with the knowledge and fears he had then, made the best choice he could in that stormy moment. Can you offer him the understanding you wish he'd had? The man, hesitantly, tried. He saw his younger self's anxiety, his desperate hope. He felt a pang of tenderness for that lost boy. Now, said the keeper, impermanence. That moment was one frame in a long river of frames. What has happened in the river since? Has there been learning? Has there been repair, however small? Has the river carried other things, kindnesses, efforts, growth, that also belong to the story? The man thought. He saw his subsequent efforts to make amends, the slow rebuilding of trust, the person he had become through the failure. Now, instructed the keeper, tell the cave the story again. But tell it as the man you are now, about the boy you were then, and include the whole river. The man took a breath. He spoke softly, clearly. I was scared and made a big mistake. I have learned from it. I have tried to make things right. I carry this lesson with me. I am not that boy anymore. The cave echoed back, softly, clearly, learned, try, right, not, anymore. The words were no longer a condemnation, but a release. The memory was still there, but its power to poison the present had been transformed by the quality of attention he brought to it. A personal anecdote: for years, I carried a sharp regret about a harsh word spoken to a mentor, who passed away before I could apologize. The memory was a closed room in my heart I was afraid to enter. One day, in meditation, I decided to enter it with my new tools. Mindfully, I recalled the scene, the heat of my anger, the look on his face. But I observed it as a witness, not re-immersing in the emotion. Then, I brought compassion. I forgave my younger self for his pride and fear. I sent sincere, belated apologies to the memory of my mentor. Finally, I contemplated impermanence. That moment was gone. My mentor's body was gone. My own identity from that day was gone. The only thing that remained was the love and respect I truly felt for him, and the lesson etched on my soul. The regret didn't vanish, but it dissolved from a sharp stone in my shoe into a smooth stone in my pocket, a reminder, not a wound. I had cleaned the lantern. Its light now showed me the path of kindness, not the pit of guilt. Practice, the compassionate retelling. Think of a minor regret. Write down the old, judgmental story in a few lines. Now, on a new page, write it again applying the 3 keys. Mindfulness, stick to the factual events. What was actually said and done? Separate the facts from the judgment. Compassion, forgive yourself and others involved. What understandable human fears, needs, or limitations were at play? Impermanence, place the event in the stream of your life. What did it teach you? How are you different now? How has life continued since? This is not rewriting history. It is remembering wisely. It is acknowledging the past without letting it hold the present hostage. By cleaning the lanterns of memory, we stop walking through our current life by the dim, distorting light of old shadows. We free up energy to fully light the lantern of the present moment. And as we do, we may notice another set of shadows flickering on the wall ahead of us, the phantoms of what is yet to come. This is our next frontier. Our long journey together in Monk's Temple draws to a gentle close. We have traveled far, from the first polishing of the compassionate lens, through the stoking of the mindful hearth, to learning the language of the impermanent river. We have braided these strands through story and practice, through the potter's wheel and the weathered oak, through the echoes of memory and the whispers of the future. Now, we arrive at the simplest and most profound truth: this is not a journey with an end. It is a homecoming to the way things already are. You are not a student who must pass a test to earn calm. You are a weaver seated before an infinite loom, and the threads of compassion, mindfulness, and impermanence are already in your hands. The practice is simply to remember to weave. Your life is not a performance to be judged, nor a problem to be solved. It is raw material, moment by moment, for the creation of understanding and kindness. Each breath is a chance to return to the loom. Each encounter is a new thread of color. Each challenge is a necessary tension that gives the cloth its strength. The Buddha's teachings are not a finished tapestry to hang on a wall and admire. They are the instructions for the weaving itself. There is a final story, one often told as the lamps are dimmed in monk's temple. It is the story of the first weaver. In the beginning, it is said, there was only undifferentiated light and silence. From this, the first weaver emerged, not to create something separate, but to appreciate the potential for connection. The weaver's first act was not to spin a thread, but to pay such deep, loving attention to a beam of light that it softened into the first silk filament. This was mindfulness. The weaver's heart swelled with a wish for this filament to know companionship, and so a second, intertwined thread was drawn from the same silent source. This was compassion. And as the weaver held the two threads, they noticed the light within them gently pulsing, fading and brightening in a slow, beautiful rhythm. This was the recognition of impermanence. With a smile, the weaver began to move the threads, not to make a specific pattern, but to let the pattern of their interaction reveal itself. The cloth that grew was the universe, not a static thing, but a living, breathing process of interconnection, where every thread's movement affected the whole. You are not separate from this first weaver. You are that same act of appreciative attention, happening now. When you pause to feel your breath, you draw out the thread of mindfulness. When you meet your own pain or another's with kindness, you draw out the thread of compassion. When you release a clenched hope or a deep fear, you honor the rhythm of impermanence. And as you live your days, you are weaving. Sometimes the weave is tight and orderly, sometimes loose and wild. Sometimes a thread snaps, and you must patiently tie a new knot. This is the work. It is not about creating a perfect, finished piece. It is about the dignity, love, and awareness you bring to the process itself. So, as you step from this shared space back into the stream of your world, carry this with you. You are already everything you need to be to live a calm and positive life. You have the lens. You have the hearth. You know the nature of the river. The practice is just this. In the next moment, and the next, and the next, will you remember to use them? Will you, when irritation arises, feel the breath first, mindfulness, see the shared struggle, compassion, and know the feeling will pass, impermanence? This is weaving. Will you, in a moment of joy, savor it fully without grasping, mindfulness and impermanence, and perhaps share its warmth, compassion? This, too, is weaving. There is no grand finale, only the next stitch. The loom is infinite, and your place at it is eternal. Your calm is the quiet hum of the weaving itself. Your positivity is the vibrant color of the compassionate thread. You are not waiting for the storm to pass. You are learning to weave with the rain and the sunlight as your threads. Thank you for sharing this timeless journey at Monk's Temple. May the braid of these teachings hold you steady. May your every breath be a return to the loom. May you live a life of profound peace, not because the pattern is easy, but because your hands are wise and your heart is kind. Go in peace, weaver. The thread of this moment is in your hands.